Hello YouTube. There's big SEGA news, including delisting of many games from digital stores. I'm going to talk about which games are impacted and some necessary context. Before I go any further, I want to say that I disagree with what SEGA is doing here. Game preservation is under attack from all sides, and the last thing we need is for SEGA to pile on too. Compared to their competitors, SEGA has been a staunch ally of preservation. Not only are SEGA's games in digital stores, but they have also made a slew of physical re-releases. At the sunset of the Dreamcast, SEGA was even known to leak useful software and documentation that supercharged their homebrew and modding community. I hope that spirit will endure at SEGA. SEGA has announced that as of December 6th, both the Mega Drive and Genesis Classics collection and most of the Dreamcast collection will be delisted from Steam, except for a few specific titles like Sonic Adventure. The equivalent games and bundles on most other virtual storefronts will be affected too. A subset of the affected classic games will continue to be offered on the Nintendo Switch subscription services after December 6th, but for how long I wouldn't hazard a guess. SEGA announced back in December of 2023 they will release remakes or sequels for Crazy Taxi, Jet Set Radio, Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, and Shinobi. However, other franchises are going to be delisted without new releases planned, including Alex Kidd, Altered Beast, Eternal Champions, Nights into Dreams, Shining Force, Space Harrier, ToeJam and Earl, and more. Prior to the release of Sonic Origins in 2022, SEGA already delisted Sonic 1, 2, and 3 and Sonic CD from the Genesis collection. More recently, there were some other SEGA games like Outrun removed from mobile app stores as licensing for their underlying intellectual properties expired. These digital releases are much cheaper than tracking down physical copies, so I personally am planning on picking up the Genesis bundle and the Dreamcast bundle on Steam before the December 6th delisting. Anyone who buys the bundles before the delisting will continue to have access indefinitely. I vividly remember my Genesis and my Dreamcast, so this development is unfortunate, but it does foreshadow good things to come. It wouldn't make much sense for SEGA to do this unless the first of their new games is almost here. The reality is that many of SEGA's classic games have lost relevance with gamers of today. For SEGA to raise their profile with a new generation of players, dusting off old franchises with potential and starting anew makes sense. Either SEGA is making another colossal 32x-sized mistake, or perhaps we're about to witness the re-emergence of SEGA as a gaming powerhouse. For those of you who didn't grow up with SEGA as a gaming juggernaut, I can sum them up like this. SEGA is short for Service Games. They were an arcade company first, and their home gaming business was somewhat of an afterthought. This explains a lot of the choices they made back when they produced their own hardware. Many of their games were designed to maximize arcade profits, quickly disqualifying losing players. Their controllers mirrored arcade cabinets with many buttons, few dimensions of movement freedom, and few analogs. Technical decisions they made about things like audio hardware were tailor-made for arcade-to-home ports. When they did focus on the home market, they were notorious for upselling customers on extensions like the Sega CD and 32X and requiring a variety of controllers for different games. However, they also supported larger storage media than competitors, pioneered the use of Hall effect analog sticks we use today, and were ahead of the curve in terms of performance. SEGA's engineering prowess is laudable, but their vision was sometimes a bit stale. I always loved the frequency modulated music of Genesis games, but being the best at obsolete tech like that was a fine illustration of everything wrong with SEGA as a company. That's all I have to say. What do you think? Is there a specific franchise you're excited to see remade or sorry to see going away? Do you think SEGA's strategy will restore their relevance? Sound off in the comments below. Thanks for watching.